Well, hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of the 360 Experience podcast. I'm your host, Tim Braheem, and I want to welcome you to today's episode with a friend of mine, Ashley McKenzie-Sharpe. Now, you're going to love this episode. I've been really excited to bring her into the podcast. She is a dynamic lady, a tremendous loan originator. I don't want to steal the thunder of the conversation too much, but I'll just tease it with saying that Ashley in 2024 funded over 500 loans. Yes, you heard that right. Over 500 loans in 2024. We're going to get into how she cultivates relationships. One of the things that I think that you're going to realize in this conversation is that she and I speak the same language. Every once in a while, I run into a client like Ashley, who is in my Leadership 360 program. She's in the current group 12 with Dan Habib and several others. Where I say, oh, wow, okay, somebody who does business the way that I teach business, the way that I did it as an originator myself. And those of you that listen to this show know that I am very passionate about this being a business of connection, a business of building relationships, a business of that requires the importance of you getting a lot of at-bats and understanding product and really being a student of your craft. And you're going to hear how all of that has played into the tremendous unbelievable success that Ashley McKenzie-Sharpe has. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about cooperative marketing with real estate agents. We're going to talk about how to find common denominators with referral partners. We're going to talk about builders, and we're going to talk about financial advisors. This is going to be a very fun episode with a lady with a lot of beautiful energy and a lot of wisdom. And I encourage you to take notes, sit back, listen to the entire episode. There's good stuff throughout. Before I get to my conversation with Ashley, I want to say thank you, first of all, if you're a subscriber to this show. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. The more subscribers we have, the better. It's how I get great guests like Ashley on the show. If you like the episode, give us a like. If you think somebody else would benefit from it, forward it on to them. And before I get to this conversation with Ashley, I want to invite you to check out the Loan Atlas. Boy, we're really starting to see a tremendous amount of success that the members of the Loan Atlas are having. The Loan Atlas is a virtual coaching company that is headed by myself and a faculty of 20 other individuals, people like Craig Strent, Ryan Grant, Josh Mettle, Mark Robertson, Caleb LeGrand, Jay Dacey. I mean, a long list of people who you've heard on this show that are tremendous loan originators, 7 live coaching calls every single month, over 200 hours of content, not just content, also the documents, the scripts, the slides for the presentations, everything you could think of. It's a complete toolkit to being a successful loan originator. We'd love to invite you to do a demo and just go check us out at theloanatlas.com, and we can schedule a demo with you and hope to have you as a member someday and hope to coach you. Before we continue, let me just say thank you once again for listening. And without further ado, my conversation with Ashley McKenzie-Sharpe in the 360 Experience. Hey, Ash, what's happening?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a journey, 2025 so far. The first few weeks have been kind of crazy, with the fires in Los Angeles and all that kind of stuff. It's been intense, but certainly excited to spend some time with you and have this audience get to know who Ashley McKenzie-Sharpe is over the course of the next hour or so.
Me too.
Tell us a little bit, let's just dive into a little bit of a background. So how long have you been in the business for? And then you'll blow everybody's mind with your production numbers in 2024 next, but just how long have you been in the business for? Where do you work currently? That kind of stuff.
Been in the business for about 21, 22 years now. I'm with Highlands Residential Mortgage. I've been here for 2 years. This last year, we closed about 150 million. So it was okay.
Okay. Everybody's
I want more.
Everybody's got their violins out for you, and they're feeling sorry for you. 150 million. Let's put some perspective around that. How many units is that?
I think we closed about, I should know this, Tim, 500, 600, maybe.
Yeah, so your average loan amount's around 300,000 ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people could tell from your southern draw that you're from the South. Where are you from?
I'm from North Carolina,
Born and
here in
raised,
Winston.
by the way?
Mhm.
Born and raised, or did you relocate there?
No, I was born in Kentucky, in Lexington, and then around 12 years of age, moved to North Carolina. So pretty much been here for, 30 plus years. We won't say exactly how old I am.
Did you ride horses when you were younger, being from
I
Kentucky?
did. A lot of friends had horses, so they would force me to ride. My sisters enjoyed it a lot more than I did. But yeah, I did ride them some, but it wasn't my favorite sport. And then when I come to North Carolina, everybody does barrel racing. This is a real thing where people get on horses and they race around barrels. Have you seen this?
I haven't.
This is a real sport. And so I had a girlfriend put me in a ring and put me on one of these barrel racing horses. And I wasn't aware what this horse was going to do. And so I get on the horse, and I mean, it just took off, threw me into the fence because it was trying to race around the barrels. And I was giving it no direction because I thought, what are we doing? So it was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure my wife knows about barrel racing because she's a big horse rider. She's ridden horses her whole life, but no, it's not something I'm familiar with. Everybody's sitting here going, wait, get back to the 150 million stuff. I mean, you guys are talking about barrel racing. I want to know more
Barrel
about
racing.
150 million production. All right, so like when did I want to go back like a little bit earlier in your career? Like, did you just come out of the starting gates, sticking with the horse thing here, 21 years ago, just guns ablazing and you were successful? Or was there some kind of a pivotal moment, like when you think back on your career where it just kind of started to click in and started to work?
I started out year one. I was working for a bank initially, and had been appointed as the branch manager, and we had been held up at gunpoint the first month I was branch manager. And so I decided I was going to get out of where they actually held money on site. I was like, I've got to do something else. And I'd been doing a lot of home equity lines of credit for a lot of local loan officers and mortgage. And so I decided that, one of them asked me if I would be their assistant. And I took on the position, and within 30 days, the manager there at the bank had asked me to become an independent mortgage loan officer, which I was terrified to do. I did not like the idea of straight commission. I thought that was like going to be the end of me. And little did I know. But so I started, because I had that banking background, they had a credit union and members credit union account. And they offered it to all of the top producers there, and then came to me, the newbie, and said, hey, we've got this credit union and nobody wants to go there. You have to sit there 8 to 5 and answer the phone. Will you do it? And I was 24, 25. I was like, absolutely. Like, yeah, I'll do this. So I show up at this credit union and I start answering the phone. And let's remember, I don't know what I'm doing. And this was back in the day when there were thousands of product. It was the CISA, FIFA, all the different products that you had. And the phone was ringing. Whoever had been in that spot just had not been answering the phone, apparently. And so I start answering the phone, and I mean, it just started like, it blew my mind away. So I had to instantly get really comfortable with asking for help. And so I was constantly calling in favors. Could you help me with this? How do you do this? And I got really good at talking to clients about, things that I did know well, and learning how to say, I'm not sure, but I'm going to get back to you. And I think that was kind of key in my initial, startup, was just asking all the questions and getting to just immediately, dive in with all of these clients. It was a cool beginning. And I don't know how much production I did that first year, but I remember I did make it to a lot of the trips that we would go on to, initially, even year one. So it was mind blowing.
There's a lot of gold in what you just shared there. So there's this common theme of people that I've done episodes of this podcast with, people like Sam Rosenblatt and Sean Panassian and Craig Strent. and myself, and there are others, which is that we started off early in our career in we'll call it a boiler room call center type environment. Ryan Grant as
Yeah.
well, who you are friends with, and you did too. When you took that desk job, so to speak, what it gave you was at bats, right? Like it gave you a lot of opportunities. And what I love that you shared was this willingness to say, I don't know, but I'll find out. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to get you an accurate answer. Started as an originator, because when you first start, like, you do get hit with questions of things that, you're better off being honest and saying, but I will get you a prompt, accurate answer than to kind of bullshit your way through it. So that commission thing, that's interesting, because having gotten to know you a little bit, I would imagine, did that spark something in you that you didn't know existed? Meaning, like, you were afraid to go straight commission, but once you were in it, did that bring out that little competitiveness in you that you possessed?
Oh, yes, yes. I don't think it's the fear of the unknown. I really didn't understand what the compensation looked like. And so once I got a little taste for it, then it was game on. I mean, I was I was all in. Now I would never go back.
So you started in this desk job format. You're getting hit with a lot of credit union questions, et cetera. And then at some point in time, as your career evolved, because obviously, doing the kind of numbers that you do right now, and I happen to know a little bit about your background. I'm looking forward to learning more today, but I know that you have a lot of realtor partners. I know that you have a lot of builder partners. When did you start to transition into becoming the cultivator of connected relationships? Because I know that that's a superpower of yours.
I think that, just being who I was, and how I was raised, I always wanted to do my best for every single client and make sure that I showed up in the best way. And so even though I did not know my stuff at the time, I really tried to over communicate with the agents on each side of the deal. So back in the day, there wasn't all of this, automated, communications that go out. So you had to actually pick up the phone and call. And so I was really good at that, at communicating with all the sides. And that kind of turned into relationships with these agents through phone calls, where I would sit there and I would be on the phone with them and we would be joking around. Then they would have a good experience. And therefore they'd be like, I want to work with you again. And then they would send me someone else. And it was really funny, because they all knew that my weakness was that I didn't have a lot of experience, but my strength was that I was willing to really dig in, and I was willing to take it all the way to closing, right? I wasn't going to stop. If we ran into an issue, I would take it as far as I could and push and push and push, and we were going to close. And I think that was something that they all really enjoyed, that, they could trust me. They could get me a client and I was going to take it to closing one way or another. We were getting there. So I think that just started to get my name out there, and I just started to cultivate, different relationships. And then I would immediately start going out with these agents and going out to dinner, going out for drinks. Eventually, we would work out together. I mean, if I was doing something, I made sure that I was interacting with agents and builders who I really enjoyed being around, right? I mean, I wanted to cultivate a true friendship with these people. And to me, that's the joy of what we do, is that we actually get to work with people who we choose to work with, who we actually love. And so I have most of my best friends to this day are real estate agents.
So there's a couple of huge nuggets in what you just shared that I want to pull out, which is that, first of all, you made a complete commitment early in your career that you were going to learn this profession. You were going to learn product. You were going to learn how to structure loans. And if you didn't know the answer, you're going to say, I don't know. And then you'd call in a favor and you'd find out. And that's how you also gave yourself the opportunity to have a lot of at bats, as I said, from being in that desk job. So you get a lot of at bats. So you get to look at a lot of deals. There's going to be an acceleration through the learning curve early in your career as a result of having a lot of deals to take a look at. I mean, one of the deficiencies that I think a lot of originators have, especially in the last couple of years, if you've been in the business for only 3 or 4 or 5 years, is you don't have a lot of at bats. So you have to put yourself into a situation where you get a lot of looks, whether that be buying leads, whether that be working in a call center environment, whether it be doing what I did, which is starting my own telemarketing operation, which started with one telemarketer, 4 hours a night, 5 days a week. But I had leads to look at in the morning when I'd come in. It might be one, it might be two, it might be five, but I had people to call. And as a result of having people to talk to, I heard the objections over and over. I was able to evolve my presentation. I was able to evolve my wisdom as it related to product knowledge. I was able to figure out how to structure tough loans. I mean, there's only so many types of loans out there, so many types of situations out there. I mean, every once in a while, you're going to see something exotic that you haven't seen before. But the question is, how many years is it going to take for you to look at everything there is to look at and figure out the answers to the challenges that you're faced with? And you put yourself in a situation where you accelerated yourself quickly. But the other thing that I'm hearing is that once you started to do loans, you seized the day. Like you made it a complete commitment to develop a relationship with the realtors that are involved in those transactions. And you created likability. So let's talk about that for a minute, because, I run into people once every year or two within Leadership 360 that are like you. So I turned you on to the John Wade episode. I know that you enjoyed listening to it. I'm definitely going to let him know he needs to listen to your episode. You guys would be like great around a campfire, like shooting the shit and brainstorming, because you guys do very similarly. But there are other people like Greg Kingsbury, who you'll eventually meet, and Sam Rosenblatt. These are people that, if I were to say to you, and I know I've said this to you before, kind of like, hey, what do you do that's special? You're like, oh, I don't know. I don't really, just me, and that's always like a little bit tricky, because you're just being you. Like, you're just connecting with people, you're getting to know people, you're working out with them, you're helping them in their cooperative marketing and all these types of things. And as a result, your business explodes. And there are other originators, like I said, that I know that do just that. So it's a little difficult sometimes to extract the wisdom from someone such as yourself, who's super humble and isn't doing all this fancy crap. Like it's not like we're going to sit here today and talk about all these systems that you have that nobody else has or that nobody's ever heard of. You do all the important shit really well, which is you build relationships. So let's talk about that. Like, give us an example of a really good referral partner that you have, and where that relationship started. Like, were they the listing agent? Were they the buyer's agent? How did you get to know them? Where is it at now? How have you nurtured it? How's it evolved? I think it would be very valuable for people to understand kind of your methodology for maximizing every opportunity that's available.
I think I've got a couple, great stories, but I think one in particular, one of my girlfriends, Jessica, I met her somehow I became the preferred lender at a Keller Williams in Winston-Salem. And she was an agent there, a new agent, brand new. I had come in to speak at one of their team meetings, and she was there, and we instantly gravitated towards one another. And we just started talking and chatting. She was like, I've got to talk to you. I really want to pick your brain. I was like, absolutely, call me anytime. So she called, and we started working together on one deal at a time. And I really started to, I think maybe I had a couple years under my belt at that point, so I could coach her a little bit better than I could year one, and kind of help her in structuring deals and talking to clients. And we grew through that friendship, and eventually started working out every morning at 6 a.m. doing Pure Barre together. And I mean, we had this love of fitness, love of health, love of all the quirky medical stuff that, I know you love too. And so we just kind of like we grew this friendship, and then our businesses both started to grow. So her business started to blow up and my business was blowing up. And it kind of became this thing where it was like every day we'd walk into bar and we'd work out at 6 a.m. and we'd talk about some deals that we were trying to work through and whatever. And then we'd go back and we'd work out and we'd laugh and we'd hit the road, and we'd reach out to each other during the day, like call this person, call this person, call this person. But the one thing that I think that was key to all of this that we all need to really remember is that there's a friendship there. And because we had that friendship, we cared about one another. And because she cared about me and I cared about her, when we had a deal and a deal started to go south, because no deal's perfect, but if a deal started to go south, or maybe the client was starting to get a little bit irritated, she could clue me in and say, hey, they're shopping you, or hey, they're not happy about this. And vice versa. I could say, hey, this person's talking XYZ. When you care about each other, you have each other's back. And so I never had a conversation where Jessica would call me up and she would scream at me because a deal was falling apart. And we all know that there are agents out there that will do that to you. But when you have a friendship and a true love for one another, that's not the way you communicate. And so we actually communicated effectively. And therefore, I don't think to this day we've ever had a closing that has not closed. Every single one of our deals has made it to the closing table because she and I communicate so well, and we're level-headed. We care about the client, we care about each other, and we're all in it for each other, not just ourselves. And I think that's important. I think when you're in it for just yourself, that the client feels that, the agents feel that. I think you really have to be in it for something higher.
So put yourself in the shoes of the listener for a moment here. And let's pick a listener that is struggling right now. Let's say they have a few realtors that refer business to them every once in a while. I was on a Loan Atlas live coaching yesterday where there was a lady who mentioned that she has two agents that know her as the person that will take their phone calls in the evening or on the weekends. And she gets a lot of leads from them, but those two realtors also say, talk to, Jane Doe, she'll get you pre-approved. And then on Monday, go ahead and shop around. Okay. So this was the coaching dilemma that was presented to me yesterday. And I want you to put yourself in the shoes of someone like that, or someone who's maybe only doing, 2 or 3 loans a month right now, doesn't have a lot of effective realtor partner relationships, and the ones that they have aren't particularly loyal. You're doing something different, obviously. You're doing 500 loans in a year that was super challenging for most. And what I'm hearing you say is that it's based upon a philosophical belief that I have to develop friendships with these people. So, and then from there, loyalty ensues, and we have each other's back. But what's the process? Like, how do you, like, if you were coaching a loan originator right now who is struggling, what would you tell them to go out and do? Like, here's your game plan. Here's what I want you to do over the next 6 months. And this is the formula that will get you a couple of loyal relationships.
I think that you have a lot more information at your fingertips right now, where you can go on social media and you can find out all the things that interest that specific agent. Where are they showing up? A lot of people check in at gyms and things like this. Are they going to this event? You've got to figure out like what speaks to them. And once you figure that magic out, you show up, right? They play in a band. They play the drums. Show up at their concert. Make sure you go up after and go, that was awesome. I love it. I got to come again. And shoot them a message later and say, again, loved your music. We got it. I want to come again and hear you jam. It was just classic. And then show up at their office, bring them some coffee, offer to come in and teach a class for their newer agents. I mean, I think that's something that a lot of people forget. A lot of these guys have teams and they have, new agents that no one else wants to work with. No one wants to feed those people. offer to help them with the bottom of the bottom things that no one else wants to do. And then you become their go-to. You become invaluable. They see you as the only option. They don't want you to call around on Monday and ask for rates because they care about you and you care about them. And so there's that compassion for one another. That's what I do to this day. I will scour online. I will figure out where people are going to be, what really interests them, and then I show up. And if there's connections, if there's people that I know that and I know they're connected with this person, then I'll ask, hey, do you mind putting in a good word for me? Like, tell them that I'm like a great lender and that they should reach out to me. That doesn't hurt. I mean, you've got to use all the angles, use everything that you got to get what you want, right? I mean, that's really what I do to this day. I don't know if that's helpful at all. I mean, but I think the one thing is that once you do make the connection, once you do show up, you need to, make sure that you are relatable and you can connect with them. And so I think that's why you really need to do a lot of that background research to find out, like, do you really like to do what they do? Because if they do like to ride horses and you don't like to ride horses, that may not be the person for you. Maybe you need to find a different person that will relate to you and that you can go out and do things. I've got people who love to garden. And so to this day, if we're going to go out and buy roses or whatever we're doing, she and I go together. We buy flowers together. We go over to each other's house. I mean, these are all agent friends that I have that we do different things together with. And they're not all the same, but that's how I would do it. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, Tim.
Great job. So what I'm hearing you say is that in your process of stalking, that you stalk those that you feel you would have a friendship with. And I think that that's really noteworthy. I realized that early in my career too. I used to have this kind of dumb saying, which is that my criteria is, would I enjoy having a beer with that person or a glass of wine with that person? I mean, like, would I want to just go hang out for an hour with this person or not? And if energetically I'm not feeling that in my first meeting with them, then why push the ball uphill? I mean, there's enough opportunities out there for people that I can, bond with to where it doesn't make sense for me to force something that's not meant to be. Do you have a criteria at this point in time as it relates to the production that they do? Do you check them out on list reports or MMI? Do you make sure that they are doing business before you pursue them?
I do. I definitely look at MMI. I want to see their numbers. I want to make sure that it's someone that we are going to be able to work together in a high level. But more than anything, I still am looking for people who I connect with personally, because it would be doing a real disservice to my business if I were to only focus on those who are doing a fantastic job right now and totally leave out all of the 20 somethings that are coming into the market and they're new agents and they're going to crush it. Well, why would I not want to connect with them as well? So my whole path is, okay, I want to connect with those that are doing big business, but there are people who are in their 20s who can learn from me and that we can work well together. So I still take a lot of the newer agents out and sit down and we connect, and I can be their kind of mentor in lending. And I want to make sure that when they're coming out and they're kicking butt, that they're sending me those clients too. So again, I think that it's who you relate to. Obviously, I have an all-female team. I do work with a lot of female agents for whatever reason. That's something that I have lots of sisters, so I guess I just connect with females and at a higher level. And so that's something that I definitely kind of push, is that, hey, we're an all-female team. Sometimes that's easier for other females to work with fellow females. If you have, clients who are going through divorces and separations and things like that, sometimes talking to a fellow female can help. It can be, compassion level. It just can be an easier transaction for clients.
How important I mean, I think I knew the answer to this, but I want to hear your answer. Maybe you can elaborate. How important in this formula of identifying agents that you think you could, and have an enjoyable relationship with, and then finding out where they're located and showing up there and complimenting them and getting to know them and following up. How important in all of that is knowledge of product and how to structure loans in your mind?
I think that's key. I think that's crucial. If I didn't understand the products and I didn't understand truly how to structure a loan, then I would have no confidence to go out and actually show up at their office and say, hey, you need to use me. So because I have that foundation where I just, like you said, the call center approach, where I got a lot of at bats and I took every single one of those to heart and I tried to learn all that I could learn. And I'm still doing that today. I mean, every single day, something will pop across my desk and I'm like, wait a minute, what? We can do what? And I want to dig in and I want to read more. I think that you have to be always learning and always willing to grow and learn more and still ask questions and still not say, oh yeah, I know it all because I've been doing this for 20 plus years. No, you don't. Be willing to ask the questions, continue to learn. I think that in the long run, things will work out for you.
The reason I asked that question is because something you said earlier about going to a colleague of the person that you're stalking and saying, hey, do me a favor, can you put in a good word for me and tell them what a great lender I am? That's not an easy thing for most people to ask unless they have confidence in themselves. And that confidence comes from really having become a student of your trade. And if you're sitting here listening and saying, hey, I don't do as many loans as Ashley, so I don't get as many at bats as her, so I don't get as many looks at, that's just an excuse. You can sit down with account executives, you can sit down with underwriters, you can sit down with work colleagues, and you have to put forth the effort to self-educate and to really understand. There's so many products out there now that you can specialize in too. I mean, within the Leadership 360 family, we have, a couple of people in Mike Watson and Larry Gonzalez who crush it with VA, and they know VA back and forth. We've got, on the Loan Atlas faculty, Trevor Carlson, who's one of the top reverse mortgage lenders in the country. He crushes that niche. Justice Roberts, who I did a podcast episode with him, he fully shifted his focus to non-QM, and he just understands the product back and forth. So he can explain it in a way that others can't. He can help someone get their head around a higher rate and how it's not relevant to the subject matter because of the value that they get from that type of product. But having, really investing in your wisdom, so then you have, as you said, that confidence when you're out there to ask for business. So let's actually talk about that. Like I remember in Costa Rica when we were masterminding at the pool, I think that you had shared a story about saying to a realtor, okay, now you need to give me all your business or something like that. It was a pretty bold statement. Like you're not afraid to ask for the business. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the things that you've said before that you think others might be shy about saying?
Well, I mean, I'm a little bit of a goofball. I like to have fun. I've had a lot of people say, well, how do you just call these clients? Like, you just call them? Like, aren't you scared to call this top agent? In my head, it's mindset. No, why would I be scared to call them? Like, they want to talk to me. Why would they not want to talk to me? Like, that's the way I think about it. Like, of course they want to talk to me. Why wouldn't they? Call them, ask them about themselves, talk about something other than mortgage so that they're not just completely bored out of their mind, connect with them. And then the next time you call, they're going to answer again. They're going to let you show up at their meetings. And I think that more than anything, that's probably what's happened for me. The lender or the agent you were talking about was Blake. He's been one of my top agents and love him dearly. We were at an open house where I was hosting the luncheon, and he was an up and comer. He was doing a lot of business, and he was using another loan officer that we shall not name. And I was always trying to get him to kind of come over to the dark side and work with me. And so finally, I think we had some little discussion, and I was like, okay, pinky promise, you have to use me. Like, let's do this. You got to give me a shot. And he was like, all right, whatever. So the thing about this whole story is that he gave me a shot and I completely fracked it up, right? Like, I can't remember all the details, but it didn't go well. This loan did not close. I ended up having to put these people up in a hotel and pay for movers and do all these things because it did not work out as I had intended. And throughout that whole transaction, the one thing that he remembers that I did is that I was super honest, always took care of the borrower, and made sure that, that they knew that I cared, even though that I had messed up, that I cared about them, and I made it right. And I think even in that situation, I can't remember, I think we got it closed. There's been other opportunities where I've had to, offload a loan over to another lender, but I think that you need to have that humility in your heart to say, you know what, I've got this wrong, but I know somebody who can do this. And I think that that's just something that was a winning connection for Blake. And as soon as I messed that deal up for him, he was sold. He sent me every single buyer going forward. I worked with and still work with his entire team. So it was a big win on something that could have been a really big fail for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great story, because the thing is that too many originators that I've witnessed over the years, out of their own fear, will make up a bunch of stories to try to excuse off the mistake that they made because they don't want to be perceived as being, not skilled, right?
Right.
But that's not an endearing quality when you feel like you're being bullshit by somebody. What is an endearing quality is when they show humility and vulnerability and say, you know what, I screwed up and I'm sorry and I'm going to fix it. And here's how I'm going to do my best to fix this as best I can. That's actually something that I think people are drawn to when people own their mistake. So you reference like calling an agent, and like a top agent calling. Like, would you ever just like pick up the phone out of the blue? Let's say I'm a top agent. Would you ever just like randomly call me, or are you always going to try to run into me at a coffee shop that that I frequent, or a gym that I frequent, or do you ever just cold call?
I definitely do cold call. I mean, typically when I cold call, there is some recognition there, right? I mean, because I've been in this market for a while. So I've got kind of a leg up where I'll say, hey, I think we worked together, on a deal. Maybe it was a year or so ago, and I really enjoyed working with you. I would love the opportunity to sit down and connect with you wherever you want. And let's talk about how we can work together more. I see you out there. I see you on social media. I see you guys have the most beautiful listings. I would love to do some marketing with you, talk to you about how you can sell your properties, in a different way, buy downs, all these fun things that we can do for people. And I think that when you offer something as opposed to asking for something, I think that that's a different approach too. Like, don't always call them up and ask them to give you business. Like, what can you give them? Can you give them leads? Because in my business, I can, right? I mean, I constantly have the ability to take the clients from Members Credit Union and other sources that I have, past clients, and I can actually refer those out to agents. Well, think about that. When you have that next opportunity, who am I going to give that referral to? Who do I really want to work with? Who have I been thinking about that I really want the option to work with this person? This is going to give me that way in. Let me refer this person to them. And then I'll call them up later and say, hey, we need to meet. I've got more. I mean, that's just a great segue in, and then get to know them, then get to find out all about them. I mean, there's so many different pathways. You don't always have to be best friends with agents. I just found that friendship was my secret sauce. But I do think that there's other ways that you can approach relationships with builders, agents, financial planners, however you choose to get your business.
Yeah, I want to talk about non-realtor referral partners in a moment, such as builders and financial planners. But before I do, I want to ask you about a few things that you've mentioned in passing. So, cooperative marketing. It's something that it sounds like you do pretty consistently with your agent partners. Also sounds like, based upon some text messages you and I have had recently, that you do a decent amount of speaking in real estate offices, and you kind of brought that up a little bit earlier too. Tell us a little bit about what do you do from a cooperative marketing perspective? How do you get into real estate offices, and what are maybe some of the topics that you speak about?
I've had a lot of luck with MSAs, right? Marketing service agreements, where typically I will begin by working with one or two agents. They become a catalyst that starts to push me to other agents in the office. And then their leadership will reach out to me and say, hey, everybody in our office is talking about you. They're all working with you. We would love to co-brand with you and market with you. We'd love for you to come into the office and speak. We heard about this product. We heard about that. I go in and talk about whatever the latest, greatest is. You go in, you get in front of them, talk about the market, talk about how they can get some of their listings moving. We have some listings that are sitting in this market right now. Talk about how to sell your seller on a 2-1 buy down. Coach them up. You don't always have to come in and say, hey, send me an FHA loan. Tell them the details, teach them. And I think that's something that we've forgotten, is that's a big thing. Like, we should be teaching our agents about the products and the ways that they can structure deals so that they can help their clients. It helps us all. If they know what they're doing, we know what we're doing, it makes a better experience for the client. And that's the ultimate thing. But with the MSAs, the beauty of that is that you do have full exposure. You can come in, you can talk to their agents, you can drop by and bring coffee and donuts, and you can email their team, and you can go and do lots of events with them. I think that's lots of fun. We do a lot of events and a lot of co-sponsoring of fun events. And I think that you've got to remember that, you need to be generous. Right. I think that sometimes we try to just always count our pennies, and, we're not going to go out and give back to some of these agents. Well, in the past, there's been some years where the agents were really struggling, and maybe we were in a refi boom year, right? Those aren't the years when you come in and you start pulling back from helping them with their Zillow leads and their agent open houses and their lunches and their events. That's when, to me, I've chosen to dig in more, give more, because I think that if you show up for them when they need you the most, they're going to show up for you when you need them the most. And I've found that to be very true.
So there are horror stories that I hear often, that I'm sure you've heard as well, of loan originators who cooperatively market with realtor partners, Zillow leads, Boomtown leads, all kinds of stuff. And they don't get any business from them. They actually get abused. In fact, oftentimes the realtor, and when I say they get abused, I'm not really verifying that. That's the story I'm hearing from the loan originators are getting abused. I don't know if it's abusive or not, but at least a few of these probably are. So what are there boundaries that you draw there? Like, are you selective as who you'll cooperatively market with? Do you set a budget for that? Are there rules of engagement? Like, if I'm going to do this with you, here's what I would need in return. Or do you just trust? What's your philosophy on that?
So, you can't say, hey, lead for lead, right? It can't be this exchange of, if I give you this, you can't pay for that. So it has to be someone that you trust, that has a solid business, and that, for me, they have referred me in the past for free without doing anything. And I now want to give back, because we've worked with a lot of clients jointly. And I feel like if they're doing an event for past clients, I should be a part of that, because most of those past clients are my past clients too. right? So I want to I want to join in and say thank you, and I want to be there to shake their hands and meet their kids and their families. If it's lead sharing, again, all of these things need to be measured. You need to have systems in place that are measuring and making sure that it's not just a give, right? I mean, you can't have that situation going on. But, in the past, there have been some times when agents were having a rough time. And those weren't the times, in my opinion, when we should all say, no, I'm not going to sponsor any of your luncheons. No, I'm not going to help with your events. That's when we should try to dig deep, help them, and they remember that.
So give us an example of some of the, as many things that come to mind, some of the cooperative marketing things that you do for your agent partners. And the other part of the question, I tend to ask two questions at once a lot, if you haven't noticed.
I'm probably only catching one. Sorry.
Try to remember them both. The other part of the question is, will you ever engage in that kind of a cooperative marketing relationship to get the relationship started before they've ever given you a deal?
I think I would, if they're a proven agent. If they've been out there in the market and they've shown that that they do have their stuff together, they have a great marketing plan, they can show me how they plan to work with me. They can show me these are the events that we have throughout the years, and this is the schedule. Would you like to sponsor some of these with us? I think if they have a really good plan, I think that's a pretty good indication that they're going to be good to work with. Jessica is one that has a fantastic plan. She has a marketing team who puts together, a full calendar for the entire year. And so I will go through and say, hey, I always sponsor the Easter egg hunt because the Easter egg hunt is classic and it's so much fun. And so we do this huge Easter egg hunt. I don't know how many people we had last year. I am saying probably thousands. I think we ran out of eggs, but I mean, it was crazy. We had people everywhere, all these little kids running around, Easter eggs, Birkin came. I mean, we had so much fun. So, I mean, things like that, those are the events I want to be a part of all day long. You're giving back to the community. When you can get involved with agents and teams who are willing to do that, that just speaks volumes, So, I mean, those are the types of things that I really, really do enjoy doing. We do Easter egg hunts. We do pumpkin petting and rides and all these fun things around the different holidays. We'll do, movies in the park. Gosh, I can't even think of all the ones that we've done. There's a lot.
There are open houses as well.
I do a lot of open houses, lots and lots of open houses. I think that sometimes people have a tendency to think that at some point they're too big to show up at certain things. And I just have never had that mindset. I mean, if it's an open house and I know that there's only going to be 2 people that probably come because it's a rainy day, I still show up because that's an opportunity for me to sit there with that agent and talk to them one-on-one for 2 hours over 20 sandwiches. I mean, you can't miss those moments. I mean, those are all moments where you make a deep connection. You get to know them because you had a dud of an open house or nobody showed up to a first-time home buyer class. Oh, well, you got to gain a really deep relationship with an agent, their team, their family. I mean, there's always a win in the negative, right? I mean, you can always find that good nugget.
Yeah. So I always try to put myself in the seat of the listener when I'm this episode. So surely there are people that are listening going, oh shit, she spends a lot of money, right? I mean, thousands of people at a Easter egg hunt and pumpkin carving and, open houses and all that, which, I would imagine in the early days, you didn't do these big events because you had a budget. And at the same time, it's always been interesting to me in evaluating the mortgage industry as to how uniquely different it is from most industries, in the sense that in just about any industry, a certain percentage of your gross revenues needs to be put back into the business, regardless of what business we're talking about, for the purposes of growth, right? For the purposes of branding and penetrating the environment that you're in, your customer base, et cetera. But a lot of originators don't reinvest back into their business in the way that you're talking about. So speaking to the originator who's doing, say, a couple of deals a month right now, and maybe they have one or two realtors who throw them a bone every once in a while, what would you share with them in terms of, you know, embracing this methodology of like, I've got to invest back in and create at bats as a result of cooperative marketing opportunities, and yet at the same time being sensitive to the fact that they may have a limited budget to do so. What are your thoughts on that?
In the beginning, I mean, honestly, we would do realtor luncheons and we would actually cook the food. So we would do like a chicken stew and we would all make the chicken, the chicken stew, and somebody would bring this. I mean, there are ways to make things really super affordable. It doesn't all have to be, well, we're going to cater it with Chick-fil-A or Panera. Bake something. Make it at your home. I mean, you can make a bunch of ham sandwiches and make them look pretty and put them on a tray and bring some potato chips. That's a fantastic way to show up and go, I made these. People still love that. That's to me, that means more because you actually took the time, made the effort to go to the store, make the food, prepare it, bring it. You didn't just call 1-800-Panera and have it just show up. So, I mean, I think that there's this thought process that you have to spend $500 to get a win. You don't. I mean, sometimes it's showing up with a coffee. It's doing some little luncheon like this. It's teaching a class, which is 100% free. Offer to do a home buyer class with them. Offer to teach their agents. Those are free things that you can do and give back. And it's a win for you and it's a win for them. And there are events that you can do for like $50. I mean, it's not all, hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I love the idea of what you said about offering to cook something or bake something and bring your own. Actually, that stimulates, if it's good. If you fuck it up, not good, then it's actually not a good thing, right? But like if it's really good food, then they're like, you made this? Can I have the recipe? I mean, think about like how that starts to stimulate deeper conversation. Oh, you love to cook. I love to cook too, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Non-realtor referral partners. So builders, I know that our time is starting to wind down here. So, the whole topic of builders could be an hour conversation, but tell us a little bit about how you have cultivated builder relationships and any other type of non-realtor referral partner relationships. You mentioned financial planners earlier. Do you have any specific approaches that people could learn from there?
With builders, I think that, again, I think it's exposure, right? I think it's the number of clients that present a pre-approval to those builders. And then they're like, we really enjoy working with you. Like, you do a really good job. And we have a lot of clients asking to work with you. Like, they want us to put you on our list. I've had a lot of luck with that, where I've been able to go in and say, look, we've done 5 deals together. I'm not on your list. Why not? Why are we not working together? Like, I have clients that want to work with you, vice versa. Let's do this. And, I think that if you're
sorry. That's okay. I just want to make sure we don't skip over the important part. You closed 5 deals with this builder. Were those deals given to you by that builder, or were these people?
No. These are clients who you pre-approved. And in the process of searching for a home, they found this builder's community and they fell in love with their new home. And they wanted to purchase in that community, but they had worked with you. They have your pre-approval. They want to still work with you. They don't want to go with the builder's whoever lender. And so I think that's a huge opportunity to step in and say, hey, we've worked together on several deals. When do you have time to talk? How can I get on your list? And I've taken those moments and I've pushed through and been very persistent. And yeah, sometimes that's like sending crumble cookies every week to annoy them. And I mean, whatever it takes so that it's like, Ashley won't leave us alone. She's going to keep showing up. She's going to keep calling. We might as well take this meeting. And then you get the meeting and you win them over and it's like, you're done, right? That's how my approach has been in the past. And I have some fantastic relationships with builders to this day who I dearly love and call friend. Of course I do. But I mean, in over the years, with the credit union, with my clients, with my builders, one thing has been consistent because I've shown up and I developed that relationship with them, with the powers that be. It enabled me to be there when others were letting them down, when other lenders weren't closing the deals, when other loan officers weren't answering the phone. When they were having issues with others, they would come and lean on me because we had that relationship. And so with Members Credit Union, initially when I had that account, there were 4 loan officers in that account. And after a couple of years, it was just me because the other loan officers they were having issues with. And so with some of my builder accounts, the same thing. They'll have issues with other lenders. And so it ends up being just me because I stood the test of time. So I think showing up is something that, and being persistent, and just constantly communicating with them, over communicating, just do a good job, be good people. And that really does go far.
Yeah, the nice thing about that, so it's interesting because I mean, I've always known from a little bit of personal experience, but from coaching a lot of people like Caleb LeGrand, Josh Burris, who have had tremendous success with builders, that, one of the great things about builders, of course, is you have a fair amount of builder buyers that don't end up buying in that new home track, and then you can refer them to a realtor. So that's a really beautiful component to it. But I've never thought about it from the perspective of you pre-approve somebody, they end up buying in a new home track, and now you always hear the story about how I lost my pre-approved buyer to the builder's lending institution because they ended up deciding to buy a new home instead of a resale. That's the story you always hear. But there's a flip side to that, which is now I have my foot in the door. Like if I can close this deal, I get to work for 60 days, 90 days, 6 months in some cases with, the builder's agent, because I'm the lender that's representing this buyer, and I have a real opportunity to start to forge a relationship. So the question that I have, and I know that you listened to John Wade talk about this in the episode that I recorded with him, is he talked about how sometimes he will make a business decision to get skinny to make sure that he closes the deal because there's a bigger picture involved here, which is the long-term relationship. I know that a lot of people struggle because they can't match the builder's lender's pricing. When you go into a situation like that, do you get skinny sometimes to make that deal close so you can have that opportunity?
100%. I mean, I would go to net negative if I had to make sure a deal closed, because the relationship is worth so much more than just that one deal. You have to think big picture. You cannot think about this one person, this one client, this one $500,000 loan. Go negative, go zero, do it for free, and then go back to that lender and say, hey, now you see what I'm talking about. I'm really good. You need me on your list. Go back and sell it, and it will be worth a lot more than that $5,000 paycheck.
Yeah, and making sure that you let them know what you did.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, I just want you to know that I worked for free on this loan because it's important to me that we have an opportunity to work together so you can see the quality work that I do. I'm looking at a bigger picture here. And during the next 45, 60 days, whatever it is, I hope that you'll be looking closely at the communication, the way my team operates, et cetera. The big mistake is not letting them know. I mean, that's just the blown opportunity if you don't communicate that to them.
Yeah, you have to let them know what you're up against. If you're doing one of these non-QM deals and it's really tough, sometimes they're looking at it and they're like, why are you charging my client a 10% interest rate? Well, wait a minute. Call them up and tell them what you're doing. Hey, look, I'm not using any tax returns for their income, and they've got this, and explain it to them, because then it wows them, and they're like, oh, okay. forgive me. I should have never said anything. And now I'll call you because I have three more people who are in that same exact situation. So don't forget that sometimes just telling them things like that, that's educating them as well.
Yeah, this loan that I'm doing that's going to result in a closed transaction for you is one that most people that do what I do for a living don't even know about.
Yeah.
That's what you get with me. You get somebody who can do the easy loans and who can do the difficult ones. That's a really important thing. What about financial advisors? You mentioned them earlier. Do you work with some CFPs or?
I do. I work with some. More often than not, it's been because of clients who have come in and they've brought their financial advisor, and then we work together, and then we have a really good time, and they enjoy working with me, and then we just start working together on more and more deals. So I have probably 4 or 5 guys that I work with consistently, and that's something that they always have deals. This is a piece of the business that I know a lot of people are aware of, but I'm not sure everybody always goes after. I didn't always go after it. These are the guys that are aware when people are going through divorces, when people have a big move, when they don't have an option, they have to refinance, they have to sell, they have to buy. They want them to restructure their debt so that they can make this big investment. They'll call you in those moments when no one else is, and they have deals, and these people aren't going to shop you because their financial advisor has said, this is my girl. This is who I trust. This is how we're going to do this deal. And it's done. So I think that that's something that we really need to focus on. I know I personally want to focus more on it in the year to come.
The person that you want to talk to for sure, and you've recently met him, is Craig Strent, who is the head of faculty in the Loan Atlas. And his superpower as an originator, and he did $2 billion in production in his career. His superpower was financial advisors. And he knows that, vertical of the business back and forth. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about that's really important for people to understand is that the beauty of working with a financial advisor is that, first of all, the conversation is essentially, look, you're in charge of managing the assets on that person's balance sheet, but who's managing the debt on that person's balance sheet? Well, that's my role. And you could ask them the very pointed question of, hey, have you ever had a situation before when one of your clients decides to go out and apply for a loan and incur debt and ends up doing it with an institution that offers additional financial services that are in direct competition with what you do. And now all of a sudden, they're cross-selling at Wells Fargo or Chase or whatever, your client that you've worked with for 7 years. And every financial advisor's had that happen. Well, what are you doing to protect yourself of that? The way that you need to protect yourself on that situation is to have a partnership with someone like me. I'm never going to do that to you. I don't work for a banking institution that is going to, share all of the information and have your client sold insurance and all these types of things. And having this kind of a partnership is something we should be talking about. And that's a very powerful strategy to go after financial advisors with, because it's really true. Like they need somebody who's going to be working in concert with them to secure the best interests of their clients and also minimize any type of exposure that you may have to losing the client. So let's transition to one other personal topic, if we can, for a minute.
Okay.
How'd the cleanse go?
Well.
You're done?
Am I glowing?
You are. Yes, you are. I was going to say, you look great. But so you finished, you did the 21-day clean cleanse, you're done?
Done with the 21. Now I've started, I kind of did them in conjunction with, so I'm doing 75 hard. Okay. Pinky's in it with me. So I'm kind of just continuing on that same diet, but maybe adding back a little bit of coffee creamer and coffee.
Okay, wait, but I mean, you already were gluten-free. I was going to ask you about all those sandwiches from Panera that you're eating. I'm sure they were gluten-free bread, but you're also a Jelly Bellies freak. So did you cut out sugar for those 21 days?
I did. I've got to go get blood work done to make sure that I got rid of all my sugar worms. I'll let you know.
Oh, let me tell you something. So I've had blood work done. Well, I do blood work consistently, like 3 times a year, but I've had blood work done on the backside of the clean cleanse probably 3 times. It's unbelievable. Like my markers are like crazy good, like that of like a 20-year-old when I'm done with doing that clean cleanse. Like my cholesterol levels are super low. I mean, everything's glowing. So it'll be a fun, my guess is it'll be really fun for you to get your blood work back because you're going to look at it and you're gonna be like, wow, like that really worked.
It's really a mind shift, right? I mean, you go through that and then all of a sudden you're like, I feel fantastic. Why
Yeah.
do I have so much energy? Like I thought I was eating good. Maybe I wasn't.
Well, you do eat pretty good, but I mean, you do take in some sugar, and that's the major toxin, right? But I mean,
Right.
like, were you functioning on less sleep and feeling like totally awake and clear headed?
Yeah, at first, I mean, there was some headaches,
Yeah.
right? You almost sleep more because you sleep worse. I don't know at first because you're like just detoxing all this stuff. But then all of a sudden there's this like enlightening and you're like, ah, and you wake up and it's just like, I feel good. I feel so good. So yeah, I mean, I definitely have experienced all the benefits and now I'm working on my double workouts, my 2 a days.
So for everybody that wants to know what the hell we're talking about, the Clean Cleanse is a well-known cleanse based upon the book Clean by Alejandro Junger. You could go check it out. I've probably done the cleanse, I don't know, close to 10 times. I love it. I oftentimes when I'm done, I feel like I don't know if I want to go back. I'm sometimes miss like pasta or coffee or something like that a little bit, but I also don't want to lose how I feel. Like I mean, I feel so good. I just want it to last forever. I mean, it's pretty remarkable as to how good you're capable of feeling if you really clean up what you put into your body. So 75 hard, so that's 2 workouts a day. That's no alcohol for 75 days. It's like a ton of water. What else? What else you have to do?
That's the thing. So it's mindset too, right? You need to meditate. You need to read nonfiction. Do 2 workouts a day. One of those needs to be outdoors. Not gonna lie, that's been a little bit challenging. It's been a little bit cold outside. Um, Pinky's been out there, all bundled up, doing her jogs. I would be in the garage and maybe on a walk with Birkin for 15 minutes, and then the rest is kind of indoors. So, but it's starting to warm back up. But I mean, really and truthfully, it's just about waking up, putting some type of action plan in place for your day, and I think that that's kind of how I've lived always. I think you do too. You get up, you do X, Y, Z, feed yourself something really good, exercise, workout, read nonfiction, be spiritual, say your prayers, read your Bible. I mean, these are the things that I think should be a part of your day anyway, but that's just something that it's just reinforcing. You're keeping it really clean, no alcohol. I mean, it's 2 months. Come on, we could do that.
Reading nonfiction was an adjustment for you because I know that you like to read historical fiction.
I do like to read historical fiction, but I've been reading some nonfiction. I mean, I think clean counts as nonfiction. I mean,
Yes.
there's several health books that are nonfiction that you can read that I can like get behind.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time today. I know how busy you are. We also have a call here in about an hour and a half with our group L360. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. I'm going to let you go catch up on your emails and your text messages. Really, really grateful for the time. And I know that everybody that listened to this episode will have benefited tremendously from your wisdom. So thank you very much, Ashley.
Thanks, Tim, for having me. This is great.
Yeah, you got it. And to everybody that tuned in to listen to this episode, thank you. We look forward to coming back at you in a couple of weeks with another episode. Next episode is going to be with Dan Habib, your buddy, Ashley. So it'll be fun to have Danny in here, looking all svelte, having lost a
Oh,
bunch of weight.
he's all
Yeah,
slimmed up.
yeah. And thanks everyone for listening. Bye bye.